Okay, out here at the range today, have three different little mouse calibers. I'm going to talk about this one in a minute. It's a Beretta 81. This is a CZ 50, and both these first two are from Classic Firearms. Paid about $200 for each of them. And then also have the Browning 380. I think I got this from CDNN for under $400, something kind of like that. If you are familiar with 1911s, one of the things that you will notice about the Browning, sorry, I thought I already had that locked open, is the difference in size is considerable. I mean, you know, the 380 is not only a lot smaller, but the grip size is also very different. This is a much smaller grip, and so it feels much different, and when I'm holding it I have to kind of make a conscious effort to make sure the pad of my finger is on the trigger versus you know, here it's so much easier for my finger just to come through based on the narrowness of the grip. It is a nice shooting 380, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. The CZ50 is, you know, the Soviet era. It does have a decock and a safety. And then the Beretta, and I had the Beretta Cerakoted teal because it's my wife's favorite color, and that makes it this automatically her favorite gun. This is a 32 ACP. It does not have a decock, and so that's one of the things that, you know, the Beretta 92s, for example, they all have the decock. The Beretta 81s do not. I do have a full-size Beretta we can use for size comparison. You know, it's obviously a much smaller version of the Beretta. It's just about as thick, but size-wise, yeah, it's much smaller in every dimension. But of course, it's also shooting just the 32 caliber and not shooting the 9mm. It doesn't have a decock. It does have something that I've discovered that is interesting. Normally, when you're decocking a pistol that doesn't have a decock, you pull the trigger and then you just let the hammer go all the way down. Okay? And, you know, if that hammer slips while you're doing the decock, and we are clear, if the hammer slips while you're doing the decock, you know, bang, and then the gun goes off. And if you're trying to do a decock and you have your thumb back here, well, then the slide's going to hit your thumb, and that doesn't feel very nice. So, obviously, you know, a decock would be a real plus. Now, this gun, which again is clear, does have sort of an interesting, I don't know if you want to call it a feature, but we can try this loaded here in a second. Essentially, you can hold the hammer, pull the trigger, let the hammer come forward just a little bit, let the trigger go, and now let it drop. And you noticed it went to half cock. So it did not go to the firing position, which, if you know, you were doing a decock, a manual decock, and you just pulled the trigger and then, you know, the hammer slipped or whatever, and you had the trigger back, it would fall down and it would hit that firing pin. So we're going to give that a shot here, hopefully not literally, in just a second. I'm going to load up one round, and I'm going to try to do exactly what I showed you there, which is the hammer is back, and I'm going to hold the hammer, pull the trigger, let the hammer come forward just a little bit, completely release the trigger, and I can actually feel that in the hammer, and then I'm just going to let it go. And we'll see if it fires. It should not fire because it is going to that half-cock position. But we'll see. I mean, obviously that's not the way that it's intended to be used, so you don't want to actually do that on purpose. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's nice to know you have a little bit of a fail-safe, I guess. So, there is now one round in the chamber. And so I'm going to try to do that. I'm just going to shoot off into the berm here. I'm holding the hammer. I'm releasing the trigger. I'm letting the hammer go just a little bit. Now I've released the trigger completely, and it went to its half cock. Again, this is not something that, you know, you want to do. I don't think this is the way Beretta intends you to decock the gun, but it's good to know that if you just release the hammer, you're holding onto it, and you just release it just a little bit, the one round that's in the chamber, because obviously you'd want to have the gun with a round in the chamber, it's nice to know that if you release the trigger and then just let the hammer go, you know, accidentally, it's not going to discharge. Obviously, what you would prefer to do is lower the hammer all the way on that live round and then pull it back to decock, or I'm sorry, to the half cock. You know, do that all very slowly and make sure that, you know, the round doesn't just go off. So, you know, the round is there in the chamber. What you would want to do normally is very slowly release it all the way down and then pull it back to half cock. So that way, if you drop the gun, whatever, I don't know, I don't think this gun has a safety, a firing pin safety in there, so if the hammer was all the way down, left at rest, and then you hit it, you know, the gun may discharge. I'm not sure. I'm not going to beat on the gun with a hammer to find out, because it looks really nice and teal, and my wife's favorite and all that. So I'm just going to fire this round off there into the berm. There we go. And no magazine, so it didn't stay locked open. And I have a target set up downrange, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 10 rounds with the 32, the Beretta 32, the Beretta 81, 32 ACP. I'm going to shoot at the top target. I'm then going to use the CZ, and I'm going to shoot at the right target, and then I'm going to use the 380 and shoot at the left lower target. So, have a round in the chamber. And so now, and I've just let that ease down. So I loaded up 8 rounds because that's what the CZ holds. That's also what the Browning holds. So that way we can kind of see how these 3 different guns do. You know, again, I'm not the world's greatest shot, don't claim to be, but you know, starting off with double action. And I believe I kept all of them in I think it's about a 6-inch circle. You know, and this is a surplus gun. This was Italian police or whoever had it. You know, 7.65 caliber. This comes from Century Arms. It comes with 1 magazine, 12 rounds. I do also have a Beretta 84 mag that I've got. I think I loaded up 10 rounds. I've seen videos about people tapping on the lips here with the hammer to see if it takes care of an issue. I do have another video on using the 84 mag in the 81. In that video it was completely unaltered. We'll see if it does any better today than it has there, and I'll just shoot into the berm. Alright, and there's that. I believe that's the last round. And it is. It didn't stand up like it was in the previous videos, but it also didn't feed. So, you know, or I'm sorry, it locked back open with that round in the chamber. So the 84 mag, tapping on the feed lips, it makes it run a little bit better, but, you know, that last round still did not feed in on its own. So again, it's not exactly ideal, but as far as a range toy, you know, if you want to have another magazine to use, yeah, you can pick up an 84 mag, and you can run your 32 with it. You know, maybe you tap on the little lips there, maybe you don't. Just realize you're going to have some malfunctions with the 84 mag. With the 32 mag, the original included Beretta 81 mag, not had any problems. I did see, I got a notification that Beretta had these on their site. They're about $48.50, I believe, but they were only on the webpage for apparently about 30 minutes, and they were gone. So if you want an extra magazine, jump on them early when you do have that opportunity. All right, so that's 1 mouse caliber gun done. So going to do the CZ50, and again, this was also from Classic Firearms. I want to say it was about $200. This one does have a decock here on the side. It also serves as a safety, a hammer block, a trigger safety. So right now the trigger is dead because, or actually just won't move. I shouldn't say it's dead, it just won't move because I have the safety engaged. So I can push the safety up, and you can also, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, there's a little tactile indicator that yes, there is a round in the chamber. So I'm going to shoot at the lower target on the right. The double action pull on this is stout. I'm going to say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 pounds. And then the single action gets a lot nicer. The sights on the CZ are not good. Yeah, I totally missed my my target there. I don't know if I probably pulled it low. Just having a real hard time getting that front sight. I think I only got 5 out of the 8 on the target there. Definitely a lot more recoil, and the trigger is much harsher than the Beretta. The Beretta actually has a very nice trigger all the way around. All right, so moving on up to the 380. The Browning, it's a 1911 design, so you have your thumb safety, and you activate the thumb safety, and it stops the trigger from functioning. And also you have the grip safety, so without the safety on, it will not fire. So, or I should say, without the safety being deactivated by your hand. Single action, and so it has a nice trigger. I've been pretty impressed with the Browning. The sights are a little bit better. You know, they're still blacked out, black on black, and I'm shooting at a black target. So, not the easiest thing. And also for me, even with smaller hands, my thumb wants to have issues with the safety here. You know, sort of the positioning piece. And then I've got to remember to put the pad of my finger on the trigger, otherwise I'm going to pull everything. Okay, I believe I got all 8 rounds in the target there. You see that I pulled a couple of them a little high and to the right, which again could just be because of the trigger play, or my placement of my finger on the trigger is not where I would expect it to be. But you know, accurate enough, sure. Same thing with the Beretta there. If you have somebody who doesn't like recoil and you want something that's a cheaper option, I picked this up, like I said, from Classic Firearms for $209. I spent more than that getting it all Cerakoted. Mine didn't have any rust in the slide. I took the slide completely apart. Didn't trust myself to take the frame completely apart because Beretta has all those weird little springs in there that have to be oriented just so. The Cerakoting, when they took it all apart, there was a lot of rust on the small internals, and because of that, you know, they had to clean all that up, get all the rust off, Cerakote those. All small parts are black, and then the bigger part is obviously teal. You can do different grips and whatnot. These are just the stock grips. But if you're looking for something, a pistol that, you know, you've got somebody who doesn't like recoil, who doesn't have huge hands, this pistol has a lot going for it. Particularly, you know, the safety there does work to stop the hammer from being pulled all the way to the rear, whether it's on double action or whether it's on single action, does the same thing. So, you know, it's a caliber that doesn't recoil all that much. It does have a nice trigger because it is a Beretta. And, you know, it's a small gun. It doesn't have anything it doesn't need. It doesn't have light rails and all that kind of stuff. Got a very generous trigger guard in here. The sights are not the greatest. I mean, you've just got a notch here. We can see if we can get a view of that. I don't know. You just got a little U notch, or a squared out notch here, and then you've got the front sight. Obviously the front sight, I could make that darker. You know, you could also do higher contrast here on the back if you wanted to, but because it is a Beretta, you're not changing that sight without spending way more than the pistol is worth. You can trade out the rear sight, of course, but that front sight kind of is what it is, and then, you know, you can put high contrast paint or whatever on there if you feel the need. So these are a couple of mouse guns. You can decide whether or not the smaller caliber is, you know, something you want to do. One of the nice things about it, you can get a lot of hits fairly quickly. I think it was Lucky Gunner on YouTube has a video up about the 32 and the 380 ACP as far as their stopping power and all that. I think Military Arms Channel also did something on the 32 ACP in terms of ballistics and its effectiveness. So, you know, be your own judge. Obviously, some gun is better than no gun, and the Beretta 81 probably going to be a better option for somebody who's not a proficient shooter than, say, the CZ50, just because the CZ50 does have that really harsh trigger pull. And then the Browning 380 is a nice shooting gun, but it is single action, and some people are going to be kind of put off by that. And so if you want essentially the safety of having that double action trigger pull without having to remember to take the safety off, or if you want to be able to put the safety on and have that as an extra measure of protection, and then just make sure whoever's using it gets used to disengaging that safety every time they point the gun, you know, then the Beretta 81 may be something that you might consider. And right now they are pretty cheap, especially if you don't wind up having to Cerakoted if yours doesn't come with a bunch of rust on the inside. So anyway, these are 3 different mouse guns that you know, new shooters or people who are recoil adverse might really like to try out.